We often believe that those who hurt us walk away unscathed, that the pain they inflicted is ours to bear alone. But what if I told you that beneath the surface, behind the confident posture and rehearsed charm, narcissists carry a secret regret? One they rarely admit even to themselves. See, narcissists are masters at projecting strength, confidence, even superiority. But deep down, they are profoundly insecure. That's why they need validation so badly. That's why they manipulate, blame, and control. It's not because they are strong, but because they are terrified of being seen as weak. When they hurt someone, when they betray trust, twist truths, or abandon those who love them, they bury the guilt. Not because they don't feel it, but because feeling it would mean confronting who they truly are. And for them, that's the scariest truth of all. Their secret regret isn't about what they did to you. It's about what they lost in the process. They regret losing someone who loved them unconditionally. They regret the mask slipping for just long enough for someone to see the real them and walking away. They won't say it. They'll post selfies. They'll act like nothing happened. But in the quiet moments, when there's no one to impress, the silence screams louder than they ever expected. You see, when you walk away from someone like that, you don't just leave. You take something with you, their last chance at redemption, at real connection, at being seen and still accepted, and that is the regret they carry, not loudly, not openly, but silently like a shadow they can't escape. We often misunderstand where narcissism comes from. We assume it's about arrogance, about being full of themselves, too much confidence, too much self-love, but that's not really it, not at the core. In fact, the most important truth about narcissists is this: their behavior doesn't come from a place of strength. It comes from deep insecurity. Narcissists are some of the most insecure people you'll ever meet. But they've mastered the art of hiding it. They wear their confidence like armor, polished and sharp, meant to blind and distract. They enter rooms with charm, with control, with a sense of importance that feels unshakable. But it's all a carefully rehearsed performance, and the more you see through it, the more aggressive the act becomes. This insecurity often starts early, formed in childhood, shaped by emotional neglect, unrealistic expectations, or conditional love. Somewhere along the way, they learned that vulnerability is dangerous, that being real means being hurt. So they built a fortress, one that looks like confidence, sounds like certainty, and acts like superiority. But it's hollow, because at the center of it all is someone who doesn't really believe they are enough. So what do? They seek constant validation. They need to be admired, needed, praised, not because they think they deserve it, but because it's the only thing holding their self-worth together. They manipulate conversations, take credit, and twist narratives not because they're evil, but because their sense of self is so fragile, they fear it might collapse without control. When you confront a narcissist, they rarely take responsibility. Not because they don't understand what they did wrong, but because admitting fault threatens the identity they've spent years protecting. They don't just fear being wrong, they fear being exposed. And that fear runs deeper than they even know. It's like they're walking through life with a cracked mirror, always adjusting the reflection to avoid seeing the fracture. They rely on others to reflect a perfect version of themselves back at them. And the moment someone refuses to play along, the moment someone says, "I see through this," they panic. They lash out, withdraw, gaslight, or discard, because to them that's survival. Here's the twist, though. The people they hurt most are usually the ones who got closest. The ones who saw beyond the performance. The ones who offered love, patience, and belief in who they could be, not just who they were pretending to be. And that's where the regret begins to build, quietly, silently, because even if they won't admit it, even if they pretend they're fine, pretend you didn't matter, deep down they know you saw them, not the mask, not the persona, them. And they know they pushed that away, burned the bridge, and left you with scars, all to protect a version of themselves they aren't even proud of. That's the tragedy. That's the silent burden they carry. And the irony, the stronger they act, the more fragile they really are. Because true strength isn't about dominance or control. It's not about always being right. True strength is being able to say, "I was wrong. I hurt someone. I need to change." But a narcissist rarely gets there because they're too afraid that if they stop pretending, no one will stay. That if they take off the armor, they'll finally have to face who they really are, and that is the secret they carry. That the confidence you saw wasn't real. That underneath all the noise they were terrified you'd see the truth. And the truth is, you did. It's easy to look at someone who's hurt you, especially someone with narcissistic tendencies, and assume they feel nothing. That they walked away without a second thought, never looking back, never caring. And sometimes that's exactly how it looks from the outside. But appearances can be deceiving. Because the truth is, narcissists do feel guilt. They just don't know what to do with it. See, guilt is a very uncomfortable emotion for anyone, but for a narcissist, it's more than just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. Because guilt threatens the very identity they've spent their entire lives constructing. If they were to let it in, if they were to sit with the fact that they caused harm, that they betrayed someone, that they let someone down, it would start to unravel everything. So instead, they bury it. They deflect, they blame, they rewrite the story, because to acknowledge guilt would mean accepting that they are not who they say they are, not as good, not as strong, not as blameless. And for someone who has built their survival around being in control of the narrative, that kind of honesty feels like death. So what do they do with guilt? They hide it. They turn it into something else. They make it your fault. They say you were too sensitive, too needy, too emotional. They'll say you made them act that way because that version of the story protects them. It gives them just enough distance from the truth that they don't have to feel the full weight of what they've done. And in doing so, they don't just hurt you, they rob themselves of the very thing that could heal them. Because guilt, when it's acknowledged, can lead to growth. It can lead to change, to humility, to repair. But when it's denied, when it's buried under ego and blame, it festers. It doesn't go away. It just hides in the background, shaping their choices, deepening their fear, making them even more disconnected from the people around them. They become haunted by guilt they won't name, and it shows up in subtle ways: the short temper, the sudden silence, the over-the-top confidence that feels just a little too forced. It's not that they feel nothing, it's that they've trained themselves not to face what they feel. But here's the thing, just because someone refuses to feel their guilt doesn't mean they're not affected by it. It lingers. It influences them in ways they don't even understand. They can't form deep connections because they're afraid of being seen again. They can't trust love because deep down, they know what they did with it last time. They push people away not because they want to be alone, but because they don't believe they're worthy of being truly accepted, not if the mask slips. And the more people they hurt, the more shame builds, not the kind of shame they talk about, not the kind they show, but the quiet kind, the kind they carry into every room, even if they won't admit it's there. The kind that makes them act louder, try harder, or withdraw completely. The kind that turns real remorse into something they're too afraid to feel, so they just don't, but that doesn't mean it's not there. They know, deep down, they know when they've crossed a line. They know when they've damaged someone who didn't deserve it. They know when they've taken love and turned it into confusion and pain. They know. They just won't say it because saying it would mean facing it. And for them, facing it would mean finally meeting the parts of themselves they've been running from all their lives. So instead, they smile. They move on. They act like everything is fine. But in the quiet, when no one is around to impress or manipulate, the guilt creeps in. It whispers the truth they won't speak. It reminds them of what they lost, of who they could have been, of what they chose instead, and that's the part they carry, hidden, denied, but never gone. When a narcissist hurts someone, we often focus on the pain they caused. We focus on the betrayal, the manipulation, the way they played with our emotions. And rightfully so, after all, we are the ones left dealing with the aftermath. But what we rarely consider is what the narcissist actually loses in the process. What do they regret, if anything, when they push someone away, when they damage a relationship beyond repair? Here's the thing, their true regret isn't the pain they caused you, it's the loss of something far more valuable than they ever realized until it's gone. Narcissists are driven by their need for validation. Their entire sense of self-worth is often anchored in how others see them. They crave admiration, control, and above all, the assurance that they are loved, wanted, and valued. but they don't understand how to reciprocate that love. They don't know how to give back in a way that honors the vulnerability and trust that others offer them. When they hurt someone, when they abandon someone who genuinely cares, what they lose is far more than just the relationship itself. They lose the opportunity to experience unconditional love. They lose the chance to connect with someone who isn't interested in their persona, their mask, or the performance they put on for the world. They lose the one person who is willing to accept them, not just the idealized version of themselves, but the real, imperfect, and sometimes broken version. In a world where they are constantly trying to maintain control, to manage how they are seen by others, they don't recognize the value of this kind of love until it's too late. You see, unconditional love doesn't demand perfection. It doesn't require constant validation or approval. It offers support when needed, forgiveness when earned, and acceptance when it's hardest. It's the kind of love that can heal, that can help someone grow into who they are truly meant to be. But narcissists, blinded by their insecurities, don't understand this. They don't realize how rare and precious it is to have someone who believes in them without needing something in return. They don't understand that when they push away the person who loves them most, they're not just breaking a bond, they're rejecting the only kind of love that could possibly save them from their own emptiness. The irony, of course, is that the more they seek validation from others, the more they distance themselves from the very thing that could offer them a sense of real peace. They chase admiration, superficial relationships, and fleeting moments of praise, all the while overlooking the depth of connection that was right in front of them. And when they lose that connection, they're left with nothing but the echo of their own neediness. The truth is, narcissists often don't regret hurting you because they understand the harm they've caused. They regret losing someone who saw beyond the walls they built. They regret losing the chance to be truly known and accepted. They regret walking away from someone who, despite their flaws, was willing to stay, to love, and to believe in them. But here's the catch: they won't admit it. They won't acknowledge that their regret isn't about the actions they took, but about what they lost in the process. It's too painful for them to admit that the one person who could have truly loved them, flaws and all, is now gone. And so they bury it, pretending that they don't care, pretending that they're fine. They distract themselves with new relationships, new opportunities, new achievements, anything to avoid facing the emptiness that lingers within them. And yet, in their quiet moments when no one else is around to watch, that regret creeps in. It whispers in the back of their minds, reminding them of what they threw away. They may not recognize it consciously, but deep down they know. They know they lost something priceless, something that could have given them the chance to truly be seen, to be loved for who they are, not just for what they can offer. The loss isn't just yours, it's theirs too. But it's a loss they can never truly admit. We've all seen it. The sudden mood shift, the withdrawal, the coldness, the seemingly random outbursts. It's easy to think that narcissists don't care, that they are completely immune to the pain they cause. But if you pay attention, you'll start to see that it's not indifference they're showing. It's fear. Fear of something they can't control, something they can't fix, and something they can't bear to face. And that fear is rooted in the one thing they can't escape: their own vulnerability. You see, narcissists live in a constant state of fear. It's not the kind of fear you might expect, like a fear of failure or a fear of being rejected. It's a more subtle, more insidious kind of fear. It's the fear of being exposed, the fear that if they let their guard down, if they show even a hint of weakness, the whole world will see them for who they really are: insecure, flawed, and deeply uncertain. And for them, that's the ultimate vulnerability. It's the very thing they can't afford to reveal. That's why, when confronted with guilt or remorse for their actions, narcissists don't have the emotional tools to process it. They don't know how to acknowledge it, how to sit with it, how to learn from it. Instead, they push it away. They bury it under layers of defensiveness, of blame, of denial. They cannot afford to admit that they are capable of hurting others, because doing so would mean admitting that they are capable of being hurt themselves. And that's a threat they can't manage. This fear of vulnerability doesn't just affect their relationships with others. It affects how they see themselves. They walk through life with a fragile self-image that must constantly be bolstered. They avoid situations that could reveal cracks in their facade, because those cracks make them feel exposed. It's like a house built on a shaky foundation. The slightest shift threatens the entire structure. So they keep the walls high, the doors locked, and the windows closed. They do whatever it takes to avoid feeling weak, to avoid feeling human. But here's the catch: the more they build up these walls, the more they isolate themselves. The more they distance themselves from others, the more they lose touch with the very things that could heal them. Vulnerability, when embraced, is the key to connection, to growth, and to self-acceptance. But narcissists can't afford to be vulnerable, and so they remain stuck in a cycle of emotional isolation, unable to grow, unable to change, unable to truly experience love. When they push others away, when they hurt the people who care about them, they do so not because they want to be alone, but because they fear that closeness will expose them. They fear that if they allow someone to see them for who they truly are, flaws and all, they will lose everything. So, they push people away before they have the chance to get too close, before they have the chance to really see what's underneath. And yet, the irony is that it's in that very vulnerability, that very exposure, that true connection can be found. It's only when we allow ourselves to be seen in our most authentic, most imperfect state that we can truly connect with others. But for a narcissist, that's a terrifying thought. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing that if you step off, there's a chance you might fall, but also knowing that the only way to soar is to take that leap. So what do? They retreat. They pull back, they shut down, they may even lash out, because lashing out is easier than confronting the raw, uncomfortable truth of their own vulnerability. And in doing so, they miss the opportunity for real emotional connection. They miss the chance to experience the deep, healing power of intimacy and love. Instead, they live in a state of constant fear, constantly defending themselves against the very thing they need most: acceptance. This fear of vulnerability is the root of so much of their pain. It's the reason they can't admit when they've hurt someone, the reason they can't face the consequences of their actions. And it's the reason they push people away, not realizing that in doing so, they're only hurting themselves even more. The truth is, no one can thrive in isolation. And yet, by refusing to let down their guard, narcissists ensure that they will never experience the kind of connection that truly heals. The fear they carry isn't just about being hurt. It's about being exposed, and in that fear they stay stuck, unable to move forward. When you walk away from a narcissist, it's not just about leaving a person behind. It's about taking something with you that they can never replace. You're not just walking away from a broken relationship. You're walking away with the thing they could never give you: true, untainted love and acceptance. And this loss, while invisible to the outside world, is something that stays with them long after you've gone. It's not just the pain of losing you that they feel, it's the fact that you, in your own way, were their last chance at something real. Narcissists often live in a world of mirrors. They need others to reflect back at them an image of themselves that makes them feel validated, powerful, and important. They can't see themselves clearly without someone else telling them who they are. It's exhausting, it's unhealthy, and it's unsustainable, but for a long time, they don't realize that they are trapped in this cycle. They believe that this external validation is all they need. They push people away when those people get too close, when they can see beneath the mask. They shut down the ones who love them unconditionally because that love is too overwhelming, it's too pure, too honest. It makes them uncomfortable, but they don't know how to embrace it, so they reject it instead. But when you leave, you take with you something irreplaceable. It's not just the affection or the time you spent together. It's the unspoken promise that you were someone who could have loved them despite their flaws, despite their faults, despite the fact that they weren't perfect. You were someone who could have seen them in their most vulnerable moments and not turned away. You were the mirror they never allowed themselves to see, the one who could have helped them see their own reflection without all the distortion they've built over the years. The loss of that, the loss of someone who truly saw them, who cared for them without conditions, is something they can't understand until it's gone. They don't realize it when they push you away, when they hurt you, when they try to control or manipulate you. But when you walk away, when you're finally gone for good, they feel it. They feel the emptiness in a way they never expected. Because now, there's no one left to tell them who they are. There's no one left to validate their existence. And in that absence, they are left with nothing but the silence of their own fear. And it's not just that they miss you. It's that they miss the version of themselves you believed in. They miss the chance to be truly seen. You were the one person who could have accepted them for all that they were, who could have loved them unconditionally despite their flaws. And once that's gone, they're left with the realization that they never truly had the courage to embrace it. They pushed you away out of fear, out of pride, and now they're left to deal with the consequences of that fear. The regret that follows isn't just about losing someone they loved, it's about losing the chance at real connection, real vulnerability, and ultimately real healing. This is the part they can't admit. They won't tell you how much they regret pushing you away. They won't tell you how much they miss the way you saw them, the way you accepted them, the way you loved them despite everything. They won't say it because admitting that would be too painful. It would mean confronting their own flaws, their own vulnerabilities, the very things they've spent a lifetime avoiding. So instead, they bury it, pretend that they're fine, and move on as though nothing ever happened. But the truth is, that feeling of loss, that quiet regret, stays with them. It's like a shadow that never quite fades, and the worst part is that they'll never get another chance at it. The love you offered, the love that was real, the love that didn't require them to pretend or put on a mask, is gone, and no one else can offer them that. No one else can see them for who they truly are and still choose to stay. They may try to find it in other relationships, in fleeting moments of admiration or affection, but it will never be the same. They will never get back the unconditional love they once had, because they let it slip through their fingers. And in that loss, they are left with nothing but the emptiness of their own choices. So when you walk away from a narcissist, you're not just leaving them. You're taking with you the only thing they could never give themselves, real connection. And that's something they will never truly recover from. When you've been hurt by a narcissist, it's easy to focus on what they did to you. The manipulation, the lies, the gaslighting, it all becomes a painful, confusing blur. But if you look a little deeper, beyond the surface of their actions, you'll begin to realize that narcissists aren't just hurting you, they're also hurting themselves. And while it may not be obvious on the surface, the truth is that the deeper regret they carry, the one they never speak of, is the loss of the very thing that could have saved them the chance for authentic connection. Narcissists live their lives in a constant battle with themselves. They've spent so long building a false identity, a persona that shields them from the vulnerability they fear most, that they can't even see who they really are anymore. This false self is designed to protect them, to give them the validation they crave and the control they believe they need to feel secure. But the problem is, this false self is empty. It's hollow. And no matter how much they try to fill it with praise, with achievements, with admiration from others, it never satisfies. It's a never-ending cycle of seeking approval, but never feeling truly whole. What they fail to realize, what they refuse to admit, is that real connection, real, meaningful relationships are the antidote to this emptiness. Love, trust, and vulnerability are what could fill that hollow space within them. But they push it away, they sabotage it. They hurt the very people who could offer them this connection because they're terrified of what it would mean to truly open up, to let someone see them for who they are, flaws and all. They've built their entire life around a mask, a version of themselves that they believe the world wants to see. And if they were to take that mask off, if they were to show their true selves, they fear that no one would love them, that no one would accept them for who they really are. So instead, they push away the people who care. They create chaos. They manipulate. They tear down what's good in their lives because, deep down, they believe that they don't deserve it. They don't believe they're worthy of unconditional love. And so, they do everything they can to destroy it, even if it means losing something they can never replace. What they don't realize is that in doing this, they're not just losing you. They're losing the one thing that could have saved them the chance to be truly loved, flaws and all. But the sad reality is that narcissists can't see this until it's too late. They won't realize what they had until it's gone. They won't understand the depth of their loss until they're left with nothing but the empty shell of their own self-image. And by the time they do, it's too late to turn back. The people they pushed away, the relationships they destroyed are gone. And with that loss, they're left to grapple with the emptiness they've been avoiding their entire lives. And it's not just about losing a relationship. It's about losing the very thing that could have healed them. Authentic connection, the kind of connection that isn't based on control, manipulation, or admiration, but on trust, vulnerability, and mutual respect, is something that narcissists cannot comprehend. They can't understand the power of real love because they've never allowed themselves to experience it. They've spent so long hiding behind their false self that they can't even imagine what it would feel like to be truly seen, to be truly accepted for who they are. So, when they hurt you, when they push you away, when they tear down the very foundation of your relationship, they're not just hurting you. They're hurting themselves. They're cutting themselves off from the one thing they need most, the very thing they can't bring themselves to accept, real connection. And while they may act like they don't care, like they're fine, like they're unaffected, the truth is that they carry the weight of that loss in silence. It sits with them even if they won't admit it. The regret is there, lurking beneath the surface. They may never tell you how much they miss you, how much they regret pushing you away. They may never acknowledge the pain they caused you or the opportunity they squandered. But that doesn't mean it's not there. That doesn't mean they don't feel it, because deep down they know. They know that the very thing they were too afraid to embrace is the thing that could have saved them. But now it's gone, and they're left with nothing but the emptiness they've carried with them for so long. A loneliness that no amount of admiration, no amount of praise can ever fill.